Today I'm going to talk about how you should stop trying to be perfect, and I've got news for you. You're not perfect, nor are the things you do in business, and I'm sorry to be the one who's being honest with you, but the truth is no one's perfect, and no product, not even that brand new shiny $700 phone or anything else, is perfect either. And not everything you create will get the same results. Even web pages on near identical subjects will get different results because there are lots of factors at play and you can't predict those. Things are just unpredictable. I remember reading an interview with a band I follow. They Might Be Giants if you're interested, and they've done songs. They did the theme song for Malcolm in the Middle. They've done the Mickey Mouse Club. They did some songs on Austin Powers' various movies, and lots of albums of their own. And they talked about a time when they ran a dial-a-song phone line. People would, back in the days of when people used real phones, they'd dial in to listen to the latest song, and the band said as they soon got used to people hanging up without listening to the whole song. And they said that was okay because they learned the lesson was they shouldn't get too attached to the songs they created. They shouldn't get precious about them. Not everyone likes everything, and I've remembered that in relation to the products that I create and the web pages, videos and all the other stuff that I do. Because you'll never please everyone. Even if you spend, as a friend did, 3 years on writing a 50-page ebook, because he was never quite satisfied with it and in that time he could have launched it, found out how well it worked, helped people because it was about cold sores and getting over them, and he could have been on version 2 or 3. Instead it was still version 1, it was still on his hard drive, nowhere else in the world. But anyway, you'll never have exactly the same conditions the next time you create something, even if it's on the exact same topic. My product sales stats, they're all over the place. According to the publicly available stats in Warrior Plus, anything from 1 sale to well over 100. If we look across there, that's there. 10 plus sales, these are publicly available. I know that I've got more detail. 25 plus, 50 plus, 25, 2, 6, 25, 100 plus, 50, 4, 1. Okay, that's a different market. 10 plus, 50 plus. Now you notice that some of these are free, some are chargeable, some are actually it's a bit of both, in that quite a lot of the sales funnels will have both in them, so the figures are not easy to interpret, but they're there. They give you an idea that they're all over the place. Same with the article analytics of the ones I've put up on SlideShare, and that was quite recent. That was fairly recent, but if you notice the difference in views, that was also recent. That particular title just didn't grab people. Perpetual Student grabbed them a bit more, choosing a niche, and so on. But the two there, and that's top content. They do a top 20, so you could go further down and you'll see that the figures just go down and down. Because that's how it works. 80-20 comes into play quite dramatically with this. And that'll be the same with you. You won't have equal numbers on all your blog posts or videos or anything else because the web doesn't work that way. And none of the products I've created are anywhere close to being perfect, but that doesn't matter. For a start, if I waited till they're perfect, like the friend with the cold sores book, they'd never get released. That applies in all sectors. The closest we get are probably prescription drugs, which are tested rigorously, but they still have side effects. If you read the label, lots of them. So they're not perfect either, but they're released because they help people. And that's what you're doing with anything like that, whether it's products you've created, whether it's blog posts, videos like this one, slideshows, anything like that. The aim is to help people first and foremost, because that's a lot better than keeping everything just in your head and saying, yeah, maybe one day, probably never. As I said, the latest cars and phones are mostly a lot better than their predecessors. Compare a Model T Ford with today's things, today's cars are more reliable, better fuel economy, lots more features. Same with phones. Today's phones are a lot lighter, do a lot more than the bricks that were the original mobile phones. But that doesn't mean that next year's version won't be an improvement, because it probably will be, at least in the eyes of the manufacturers. If you go to some of the product launches or see some of them on TV, you'd think, wow, that's the best thing since sliced bread, rather than, oh, it's got a slightly better camera. So you should be aiming for a good enough is good enough approach to your business. Obviously don't use that as an excuse to turn out utter junk, but equally don't use it as an excuse to not launch a new product or press publish on your blog post or hit the record button on your video recorder and then press publish once you put it up to YouTube. People realise you're human, and in actual fact that probably helps. The free market, it'll judge what you create. You might get 0 views on a new blog post, it's unlikely, and there are things you can do to help get real people to find your posts, such as tweeting and posting to places like Facebook and Google+. Everyone has to start at 0, even the most popular sites have 0 views on a new page immediately after they publish it. The only possible exception to that is if someone pre-launches and if you pre-order stuff. But most of the time, people start at 0. But after a few days, you'll get an indication of how your new content's faring. Keep in mind there's bias involved here. If you're using WordPress, chances are your most recent posts will show highest on the lists on the site. Anyone using a search engine won't see the post in the results for some time. It might take them a couple of days to index it and then longer to actually process it, because it takes a while for search engines to show pages because of all the behind the scenes processing that's involved. And that doesn't take place at a static rate either, because search engines crawl your site at different rates, so they might get one new page today, a day after it's posted they might take several days or even a week before the next one gets shown because you're not on the circuit, and they do a circuit. The thing is, you won't know ahead of time which posts or products or videos will perform best. It might be your best ones in your opinion, or it could be that you've touched a nerve somewhere and something you don't rate particularly as your best work touches a nerve with your readers and takes off. Some of the videos I've created, some I really think people should be watching, but they're not. Others I think, okay, they're still watching me, I'm happy with that. Stroke my ego, yeah, go on. Or you might get mentioned somewhere and get a blip in traffic from that source. They're all factors outside your control, and one other thing to remember is that whilst the slogan "practice makes perfect" isn't completely true, because you'll never be perfect, it's a pointer in the right direction. Probably should say practice makes better, but doesn't have quite the same ring to it. So keep working at your internet business and you'll get better at it. For me, that means less stumbling when I talk through my videos, or I don't get as flustered if I do stumble or pause or whatever. Less editing on posts I make. Most of them are pretty much, apart from typos, one take. Same with my videos. Putting out products that I think will be appreciated and finding out whether the market agrees with me. And I think you should be doing something similar rather than using the excuse of perfecting your work as the reason to procrastinate. Try it for the next month, the next 30 days. Banish your perfectionism and just do it. As long as whatever you're publishing isn't utter junk, put it out to the world and let your site visitors decide how useful it is. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Then move on to the next part of your project, and the next, and the next. And if you'd like more help with doing that, click the link below this video and join my list. I'll regularly send you real-world internet marketing help, links to videos like this one, links to slide shares, document shares, whatever, links to blog posts, links to other things that help. Stuff that works, even if you don't do it totally perfectly, because you won't, no one does. And acting on what you know is almost always better than striving to make everything completely perfect. So go on, click that link below and join my list. I'd love you to join me, and thanks for watching the video anyway.